with my course, The Investigator's Ultimate Guide to Surveillance, I get a lot of feedback from people, and I actually get emails from people who haven't even bought my course. And one of the things that I hear a lot is just the nervousness of doing surveillance, of the subject just knows that I'm there. I just always feel like they know I'm following them. And this week I want to talk to you a little bit specifically about that, because that's just such a big problem that people have. Hi, I'm Larry Kaye with ShadowAnyone.com and the creator of the Investigator's Ultimate Guide series, premium private investigator training from someone who's been there and done that. And when I say been there, done that, don't let me fool you. Don't be like this is not a problem Larry's had. Early on in the beginning, I struggled with this too. You just feel like they know I'm here. How can they not see me back here? It's in your head. It's in your head 99% of the time. Most people don't notice or care. They're not doing counter surveillance. Just don't psych yourself out on this. Be conscious and be aware. Know counter surveillance moves. Understand what you're looking at. If you think genuinely, kind of not just on a gut feeling, but empirically, scientifically, measurably that this person might be onto you, then yeah, there's a reason to break off then, of course. But just being nervous about it is not a reason to break off surveillance. I'm going to talk to you about 3 real-world times and case examples here that maybe will help you a little bit with this type of thing. The first 2 cases I'm going to talk about are FBI cases. Now, this is the FBI, where they have a team of agents following someone. They can rotate cars and use some of the more advanced surveillance things. For those of us who work alone, we're frequently working alone. That's extremely common. That's just the norm. You're by yourself doing surveillance. Here's an FBI team, trained, experienced, and using multiple agents, multiple vehicles. And here's the things that they see. They're following a guy, and every time he stops to get gas, he gets a squeegee out from the gas station and cleans all of his car windows. Now, the FBI presumes this is him doing counter surveillance. By cleaning all the windows on his car, it allows him to look 360 degrees around and see if anybody's around him following him, if he recognizes similar vehicles from earlier in the day. Also, following this guy around, they see that every Saturday he goes into a hardware store. And he doesn't buy anything, but he comes out. And they just figure, well, he's meeting his handler in there. This is an espionage case, and they figure he's meeting somebody in there. So one week the FBI puts a man in the hardware store ahead of time. Come to find out, the subject of their investigation, just a little bit cheap. He's going into the hardware store on Saturdays because they have free coffee. He gets his free cup of coffee and leaves. Go figure. Likewise, with the car, he's not doing counter surveillance. He's just too cheap to pay for a car wash. So he cleans all the car windows, and neither one of these are what the FBI thought they were, because they're looking at it from their perspective. They're projecting their beliefs forward. And that's what you need to not do. It's so difficult to go back and remember a time before you were in this industry, before you were aware of these things, and realize that people do just drive around blind and completely blind to the things that are going on around them. The third example I want to give you here is a case that I worked. I was following a woman. She left early one morning, and she goes down the street. She pulls into a empty parking lot at a store, and she sits there for a moment or two, and then turns the car around and drives right back from the way she came. This is one of those types of things that you have to be aware. Okay, is she on to me? Is this a counter surveillance move? Because people looping around like that, that's one of the things they'll do to test for a tail. Fortunately, I had been doing this for a while, and I knew in my mind, as weird as this was, there is no way she knew I was following her. I knew from just vast experience doing this, she was not on to me. I don't know what it was she was doing, but I was not going to drop the tail. I knew that I was not burned, and I continued to follow her for a successful surveillance. Later on, I find out she was going shopping, and she arrived at the store not realizing that it was closed that early. And so she took a few moments to look up the store hours, then she turned around and drove back the way she came, only because that's the direction she had to travel anyways. So what am I talking about here? There's this thing where you don't want to miss the clues that counter surveillance is going on or that they might be on to you, but you don't want to invent them either. So just this one thing that she did, I was able to judge in the balance of everything else rather than being nervous and saying she must know I'm here. And you'll gain that experience, but the key here is don't project these things into the mind of the subject that you're following. Don't invent that they know you're there, because it's very likely that they don't. Use experience, use your training of what you should be looking for counter surveillance, but balance it in with everything else that's going on. Really quickly, I'm going to give you a little bonus thing. I've talked about this in another video, but since I've talked about this FBI case study in particular, I'm just going to throw this into you as well. You don't always have to follow people inside to know what's going on. And you notice the FBI followed this guy for weeks and never went into the hardware store with him. The FBI, with a team of agents, did not follow him inside for weeks. That should tell you the proper move to do is usually not to go inside with the person. When they finally did need to know what was going on, they put an agent in there ahead of him to see what was going on. There's no way this guy's going to spot a tail, because it's not somebody getting out of a car, following him in, and looking for him in the store and then following him out, right? So a clever solution to a problem, but you in your day-to-day surveillances don't necessarily have to follow somebody inside all the time. So, big problem solved today. Don't be nervous and project your neurosis into the subject's mind. Make a balanced evaluation when you're following someone. They probably do not know you're there. And just the number 2 thing is you don't have to follow people inside every time. This is Larry Kaye with ShadowAnyone.com. Remember, do the right thing, even if it's the hard thing.